Let's get into it. Coach Colin here. UFOs, aliens, demons, these things have been being depicted in paintings for thousands of years. And believe me, I mean thousands of years. I'm going to show you something from 4,000 years ago that depicts something that looks a lot like the aliens that we put into movies and TV and the gray alien types and these crafts that we're seeing. I mean, it's not even just UAPs. I mean, this is such an odd episode because I didn't realize how much older paintings were depicting this. I always knew about a couple of pictures that had craft-like things in them, but as I did this deep dive, I started finding more and more and more. And then there's these weird stories. There's one in Japan where there was a craft that washed up on shore, which means that either it landed in water or came from the water. And then there's another one in Rome where it snowed, and for some reason there was a depiction of all these flying saucers. I mean, like a dozen, 24 flying saucers. Just weird stuff. Now, this starts from me hearing this clip of Jacques Vallée and Joe Rogan discussing all these depictions. And then after that, I found a clip of Danny Jones talking with James Fox, and the depictions he gets into are wild as well. And keep in mind, everything that I'm going to show you, or everything that you see in the clips, you're going to see a better version of after we're done the clips. I'm not going to leave you hanging with the little thing that Joe Rogan like puts in the corner of the screen. I'm going to show you some close-up stuff. This stuff is wild, and it just makes you think, what has been going on this planet for thousands of years? It's really something. And you know what? Even as I say that, I'm reminded of the Y-Files with Sean Ryan. Oh, yeah. Let's go. Let's just jump right into this. But I'm going to show you some stuff. Let's go.
Just fire you from wherever you work.
Yeah, probably. Or
you're crazy,
maybe you're a kook and then stop
at
you
least
from...
they don't burn you alive anymore.
And people, yeah, that's lucky. But people do have a legitimate fear of being ridiculed, and that could stop their ability to be promoted within whatever organization they're in. That you don't want to think, oh, there's Kooky Bob over there who thinks the aliens are watching us.
The best cases I get are from executives in Silicon Valley whose family has seen something or who have seen something, and they've described, frankly, UFOs to me. And
here's another one.
A different coin from a year later.
So that looks way different.
That's right.
So that coin is much more compelling because that looks like something flying in the sky above the city. That doesn't look like a shield at all. And what is that peak at the bottom of it?
It's the same thing, whatever.
Yeah, that's very different.
You can tell
much
that
more compelling.
Those things have been in the culture.
Yeah.
But they've sort of repressed in the culture. And the anthropologists don't want to look at that. They don't.
There's a really old painting that, like a biblical painting of these people that look like they're flying around and like seated in these crafts.
Yes.
They're in the sky. I've never seen any sort of a conventional explanation of what is that artist depicting.
So usually the explanation when you read what the historians have said, it's supposed to be some god or some higher level entity that's coming to protect people and so on. But when you look at the detail, I mean, it really looks like a machine. It really looks mechanical.
See if you can find that image, Jamie. You know the one I'm
First
talking about,
guess
right?
is this one?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But
Thank you.
we wanted
like,
to...
the one on the lower right. Well, both of them. But the lower, like, what is that? That looks like a craft. It looks like someone seated in a craft.
It's an envoy from God or an angel who's been sent. But the problem with those is that the painting... it may relate to something that was written in the 3rd century. The painting is a 16th century painting.
Right.
So we didn't look at that much. I mean, it's interesting from like the one with the Virgin, with the, So it may be that the artist was witness to something and he wanted to memorialize it and he put it in his painting, but it's not tied to the time of the Virgin, you know.
Right. They just added it in there.
We can't.
What is that supposed to be in the
book,
background?
we stayed away from that. We wanted to go to records of somebody having actually testified that he saw something or she saw something.
Right, not just artwork.
Right.
But
I have to say, that would be the only way for an artist back then to testify. You couldn't really just say that you saw something. You might be seen as being very blasphemous. Who knows what happens to you if you start pushing that type of thing? You know, you might just get taken out altogether. So just like Da Vinci, just like Michelangelo, all the artists, Stanley Kubrick even, you can throw him in there too with what I'm about to say, is that when they're trying to, they make a painting, but they will also convey something that they know or that they want you to know. They will layer it in. Okay. And yes, I'm comparing these ancient paintings to Eyes Wide Shut. Okay. It's a work of art. And if we understood it fully, we, I don't know what we would do. Honestly, we would release the list. But yeah, this is the only way for them to testify. They can't do it any other way. They have to put it in their art. You have to remember, an artist back in the day, they had to go to people, and I'll go back to the clip in a second, I'm sorry. They had to go to people to get commissioned to do work. And that's how a lot of these guys work. They were very much like a fraternity. It was like a secret society where you would work and you'd learn from somebody, and hopefully you get a king or a family that would pay for you to do your work. And you would get your canvases because they owned all these buildings, or they'd construct these buildings. And that would be your life, would be working on that and having everything paid for. So you couldn't really just come out and be like, hey, I saw an alien the other day. They're going to be like, okay, you're a wacko. I want a real artist on this whole thing. Da Vinci didn't tell kings that he was autopsying people so he could learn muscle structure. He didn't tell people that he worked with that he was doing that. He did that in secret.
It just is very bizarre that this artwork continually depicts people in crafts. And look, what is that thing? Flying around.
And
like, what the hell?
And there is a communication with the man
who's looking up at it.
He's looking at it, and there is a sense of that he's actually seeing it and having a sense of what it is.
It's like an Easter egg someone put into the painting.
So this
very
may
strange.
be that the artist sort of, put that in as a side. Of course, the main theme is the Virgin and the Child.
What's that one over there, Jamie, in the second row that says Inside Ancient? Yeah, that one. What the hell is that? That's what really freaks me out, is the paintings on cave walls that look just like grays. These bizarre paintings of things that just look like they are people wearing helmets.
And the most interesting to me come from the Sahara. I have friends who are anthropologists who worked with the UN in Africa and so on, and in part of the Sahara, and one theory they have is that the culture that eventually moved to Egypt came from the Sahara. So I say, well, the Sahara is just sand. Well, it's just sand today, but we know that at one time it was flourishing. There were forests, there was water. In fact, there is water, but it's underground water. It's a large amount of underground water. There was a sea there at one time. And so there probably was an earlier civilization, and some of those come from the Tassili. The Tassili is a region in the Sahara where there are a lot of those representations. So there were a lot of people living there at one time, and they painted that on the rocks.
See if you can find some of those, Jamie. Yeah, and you see similar things that indigenous people in Australia have painted, similar things. It's all over the world.
Yes.
In completely separate environments. Very similar features in these cave paintings.
And well, I think archaeologists wouldn't disagree with that. I think they would say the problem is that we don't correlate it. I mean, they didn't write anything.
Right.
You know,
it's open to interpretation.
We don't have a good correlation, so we have to keep looking for that. But that's that's fascinating. But in our book, we made the rule that number one, we don't want isolated human figures, even with suits and so on. We really want a device, a flying device. Otherwise you have, you could fill 40 books with images of strange creatures.
Right.
I mean, what are the things that people see, in around the ranch now, in
Skinwalker,
in Utah,
yes.
and in Arizona, and in all of that. So have to be careful, on the boundaries of those things.
Right.
But we wanted to get to a place where there was testimony about somebody seeing a flying disc that was strange to them in their culture. And remember, in those cultures, those were agricultural cultures. So with people who were used to interpreting the weather, looking at the phases of the moon, looking at the rising time of the sun, and all that was important for their, for their agriculture. So they knew their environment very well, better than we do as people living in cities. So we can take that to some extent that has a scientific value, especially when you can build a model of, a number of those across different centuries. But in that book, we were careful to break the book into sections, corresponding to different evolution of the culture, explaining first a couple of pages what was happening during that time in terms of new inventions, like when the telescope was invented, when certain things were discovered, and so on. So we were careful to put it in context, with every reinterpreting the description by the witness in the context that was appropriate.
Well, it was very thorough and very objective, which is what I really enjoyed about it, where you were very clear what we absolutely knew and very clear what could be nonsense and myth, and that one of the things that keeps occurring over and over again is these similar stories. The stories are really similar from the 1700s to the 1800s, yes, into the 20th century, and then now it gets more muddy, because now you have a bunch of people that realize that there's value in concocting a story and then talking about it and selling a book. And I think there's people that are grifters, and I think I probably had a few of them on. they are capitalizing on this desire that people have for stories.
Well, also now we think.
In the comments, who do you think the grifter is that he's talking about? He said he thinks he has a couple of them on. Who do you think that has been on talking about subjects in this range, or maybe just in general, is the grifter that Joe is talking about? Let me know. I have a few ideas myself.
All over the world. Again, there are, paintings of that kind of thing from the 18th century or the 17th century.
Yeah.
So that I've collected and published. So
what are the most compelling
different
paintings?
Categories.
What are the most compelling paintings that we could find right now from like the 1700s or 1800s?
I think there is a beautiful painting of hills and 3 blue spheres that are not moving, that seem to be suspended in the air. Very distinct blue spheres that were seen, and somebody, recorded it, and somebody did a painting of the scene. Those are things that people wanted to remember because they knew it was.
And what year was this painting from?
I don't remember the year. I couldn't tell you.
But it's a very old painting.
16th, 17th century.
Do you know the name of it? Like, so Jamie could try to find it online?
No, I could send you the picture.
Okay. Okay. So there's also a bunch of depictions of egg-shaped crafts.
Yes.
This is very common as well, right?
Yes.
And the couple that you had in one of your books from, was it the mining people from, was it California or was it Nevada?
I wrote a book with
Shapins?
Paola Harris called Trinity, about an egg-shaped object that happened in 1945 near White Sands. That now we have reinvestigated it. The first book was criticized and, appropriately by someone who said I hadn't gone to enough of the written records. Well, now we've done that. So we've republished the book. It's called Trinity. And it covers...
So let's get into what they are talking about. Some of the images that more than I thought of the images that Jamie was using were actually pretty good, pretty zoomed in. The screen is pretty big. One thing I have to say before I lose this thought is that the consistency of the shapes. That's what Joe Rogan asks at one point. Like, how consistent are these shapes of these crafts? And we're hearing cigar shape, we're hearing egg shape, we're hearing disc shape. Now, I don't have much in regards to these paintings in regards to cigar, but definitely you see things that are very much egg shaped, circular, disc shaped. Now, in this painting, you got this craft here. And if I pull this over, you got this craft over here. Let me just give you a more zoomed in view of that. So this is the entire painting, right? You got one craft here, one craft over there. And if you zoom in, it's cropped out a little bit. And if you zoom in, this is what they look like. It's literally two guys inside, and it's not even just like it's shaped. It's not even like it's just egg shaped. It has a point to it as well, as though that's part of the ship, or the craft, which I would say it more than likely is. The people who are in it also dressed in what seems to be like a toga. Like, look at this one as well, like in a toga. So what's going on there? What are they trying to show us in that? These guys are clearly flying through the skies. They don't look anything like any depiction of angels that I've ever seen. And also, the craft has a little design on it. What are they trying to show everybody? And it's happening over top Jesus being crucified, right? And all the people around him, the onlookers here, and then there is depiction of angels. These are depictions of angels in the sky. But then who are these guys? You see what I mean? It's very, very weird stuff. Here, this Reddit post actually has a few of them. So this is the other one that they were looking at, where she is looking over Christ. There is a cherub over him, holding him. She's looking over. You see the man here. He's looking up. You can also see, when you super zoom in, you'll see the dog as well. I have some articles that are overlapped, so we'll probably see this image again, probably even more clear, but it's just wild, right? That people show it again here. Then there's this one. This one really tripped me out. This one here. So I was looking at it like this at first, and I'm like, what's the big deal? And then all of a sudden you go like that, and you can clearly see. This is a real painting. This is a real painting from hundreds of years ago, showing this disc. And also, just to bring up the shape of the craft again, it's wild that the consistency of the shapes, or the shape of the craft, the consistency with the people who are depicting them and retelling these stories, it goes even to today. Even today, you'll hear people talk about disc-shaped and egg-shaped, cigar-shaped, and you're seeing the artists actually giving you the exact same message over and over again. This one is one that you don't really see too often. They're showing here, basically, if I had to explain this image to you, this is the actual image here, right? This is the actual image. And then they're doing a zoomed in version of it here. So they're seeing these little, like, from like the 1950s, like, you remember back in the day, the old school movies that would depict flying saucers, and it would be the little whoop with the little bump and be like that. That's exactly what this picture is depicting here. It's wild. Does that zoom in? It didn't really zoom in. But that's exactly what they're showing us here. What's the last one? Oh, and then this. Oh, gosh. Okay, so check this out. This is the one. This is the one I was talking about. I'm going to play a clip for you that explains this one. It's a rare day in Rome where it snowed. It was a very rare day. Look how many of these saucers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They're just, as far as the eye can see, we're talking about a dozen, more than a dozen of these ships. And then we're seeing one that's very big above all of them right here. And then this is over top of all that. So even if you were to break this down, what is this image trying to show you? Is it trying to show you that these two are God, right? Or godlike, or, you know, in the heavens. And then these things are more in the atmosphere. All these little saucers. Again, discs. You know, very consistent. These artists are showing us discs. And it's over all of this. Like, if you wanted to really go into the symbolism, it's kind of showing us that this is us here, right? And we're focused on very trivial things. The rare snow in Rome on this day. And in reality, there is all of this above us that we're just not comprehending. And there's even more above that if we're willing to see it. You know, if I had to be a person who breaks down art, you know, you could take it to that extent. It's very, very weird stuff. All right, let's jump over here. There's even more pictures. Then I'm going to jump into the Danny Jones clip. I just had to show you guys these images. Again, we're seeing somebody, golden globe, just a globe or a sphere just hanging over these people, right? Just this big sphere just hanging over them, right? This lady's here. She has this wheel. There has to be some kind of symbolism to this, right? She has this wheel. They're approaching her, and all the while above them is this sphere, and this man is seeing the sphere. And look at the symbolism that it has on it. It almost has the same type of, like, this structure almost looks like the same thing you would see when people are depicting Anunnaki and their feathers. It almost has that same type of thing going on. Not that I think that's what it is. It's very similar. Again, they just show that sphere. Here, go down here. Check this one out. What is happening here? This is just a straight up portal. What are they showing us? And here's the thing. For some reason, we always come to the conclusion that, well, they were just dumb. Like all the historians are like, well, since I don't believe in aliens, I don't believe in the paranormal, I don't believe in UFOs, I'm just going to say that this artist was dumb. This guy with this immense talent that's being commissioned by all sorts of people that dedicated his life to this craft, he just doesn't know what he's doing. That's all. He's just an idiot. They were basically apes back then. It's like, I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it. Not at all. Look at this. It is a portal. I can't even get a zoomed in look. It's a portal with a man who is pouring out something that is falling, and it's falling to Jesus. Right? That's what's happening right now. It's a clear portal. Why would you depict something like that? This doesn't even have to do with, craft. It's a portal. And honestly, when you're looking at this depiction, this lady looks like a giant compared to these ladies. Maybe that's her spirit that they're depicting. I don't know, but she looks massive compared to them. And so does Jesus here. He looks like he's the size of these people, right? It's very odd, very odd. When is this from? This is the Madonna adoring The Christ Child by Giovanni Francesco de Rimini of 1460. That's where this is from. 1460. Wild. Okay, let me just show you one more, and then we'll jump over to the Danny clip. So this is another depiction. It's a little clearer on this one. If you really look at it, let's just pull it in a little bit. Let's pull it in a lot of bit. There you go. Bang. Check that out. Check that out right there. You can see that man. And if you could get even closer, you can see his dog. You can see the mouth of the dog is up looking as well. And they're looking at this alien. So basically, she's looking at Jesus. She's like, you don't even know who this guy is. And this guy's over there like, listen, what there's something in the sky here. And you know what? If I really wanted to take a wild thought process towards this, it's almost like Christ is dropped off by whatever that is in the sky, you know? It's like almost the same, you know, it has that vibe to it. It's weird that these painters are doing this. Who's this by? Domenico, and I'm not even gonna attempt to say that last name there. 1400s. And then the last one, oh, I gotta show you guys this one. So this one here, check this out. This is little baby Jesus once again. This is a very odd looking person, I have to say. Very, very odd looking person. And especially from an artist that can do faces so well, chose to do that face like that. Just saying. That's very odd. And then we go up here and we're seeing all these girls. They're looking at the books. They're playing harps. They're happy. They're celebrating, right? And then you got this guy here and he's like, guys. Yeah, no, I know there's little baby angels and stuff. I get it. And, you know, Jesus Christ is here now. But what is this, guys? So it's wild. Very wild. And this guy is basically what looks to be a shepherd. So the shepherd is having this vision, or he is seeing an actual alien in the sky of sorts. I'm going to call it an alien. You can say angel as well. It's the lines get so blurred in this realm of these old pictures, you know? Again, if I had to break it down, if I was going for the symbolism, it could just be that Mother Mary, his mother, staring down at Jesus. They're all enamored with Jesus. They're studying the books. They're acknowledging God, and they're in the Word of God. And this man is like a man of science here. That's why he has a book. Maybe he's a philosopher. He turns away from it all. Maybe he doesn't think it's important. And then again, above all else is this, whatever this might be. Completely riding something. You can see some kind of, you know, light shining again from the last episode I did where we were talking about radiation poisoning hitting certain people. Kind of looks the same. Looks very, very similar there. And then, oh, this is the last one I had to show you. Guys, look at this. Now, you remember that episode I did where we were talking about Colaris Island? Talking about that big shining light. The big shining light where they were in Brazil, and there was this big light that would come through this small town, and it was actually shooting people with these beams. These people were getting blisters and red. It looked very much like radiation poisoning. And a lot of these people were in the hospital. It was a terrible time. I also showed you a depiction from the 1200s of a monk who also received the exact same thing, which I think I could show you right here. This monk here, when an actual seraph hacked him, right? Or, you know, touched him, or, you know, ordained him, anointed him. I don't know. I can't tell with this one, quite honestly. So it's shooting beams at his hand. It's shooting beams at his hand, at his head, at his feet, at his friend's feet as well. And these actually damaged him. It wasn't like a godly touch. It damaged him, and he later succumbed to those wounds. That was in the 1200s. This exact same thing is happening in this image. Now you're seeing this big, beautiful light up there. Okay. And again, they're depicting this as angels, the same way this was depicted as an angel coming at him. they also depict this as angels. But if you see, the beam is coming down, and it actually is hitting her directly on the top of her head. Very odd. And then there's like an angel looking lady over here, or maybe she's just wearing wings. I don't know. But either way, that's the thing about these paintings. There's so much to this. Like, he took the time to do all this. He took the time to put this peacock there. Is that just the way things look back then, or does that peacock mean something? But again, the main thing is that there's a beam coming down and it's actually hitting this woman in her head. I believe that's a depiction of Mary, I'm pretty sure. And this is from 1486. See what I mean? Oh, they have a close-up of it too. So if you look very, very close, oddly, it looks a little bit like you can see like little halos and little wings, right? But you see a very clear, huge burst of light, huge beam going right down to this woman, hitting her right at the top of the head. Bang. You can see that right there. I'm running like a play-by-play on this. Well, what happened was the angels sending down a beam of light about to hit this lady, ding her right in the head. They really did that no problem. Usually it takes them 2 or 3 shots to get somebody right on top of the head. They did that first try. They've really improved their game since Jesus has arrived. So stupid. All right, that was just that one I wanted to show you, and it matches up with this one. And again, from the 1200s to the 1400s, depicting the same things happening, right? Just very odd. But let's get into some other stuff, right? And that's angels or, craft, we don't know. But these things that are being depicted, they kind of look like demons to me. Now, let me just play this clip. This is James Fox sitting down with Danny Jones.
4,000-year-old cave paintings here in Australia. So I looked up Wanina, and I don't know if you, and look at that on the upper right hand.
4,000-year-old rock art.
Yeah, so click on that one on the upper right if you can, the big one. Yeah. And I just have to remind your audience, this is 4,000 years old. I mean, hello. Do you see some resemblance? I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy, right?
They look exactly the same.
That's what I'm saying. It was spooky to see that. The resemblance. I mean, these are children in 1994.
It looks like a snake slithering in between all these heads of these creatures. For people that are not watching and only listening, there are these 4,000-year-old cave rock paintings from Australia, and these heads look like the traditional UFO heads with the big eyes, the big head, the spindly bodies, and there looks like a snake slithering through it, 2 tall, skinny-looking beings off in the background, and a bird, like a...
Anyway, it's just, I mean, could that possibly be a coincidence? I mean, I don't know, man, but that was just, and there's obviously,
and this is, so these are apparently in some caves, and how do they date it to 4,000 years ago?
That you're going to have to talk to, specialists, because I don't know, but that's, according to everyone I talked to, these are thousands of years old,
right?
On cave paintings in Australia. In fact, I almost went to one of them, and in fact, next time I go to Australia, I'm going to go and look at some of this stuff, because it's just like, oh, look, I don't know which one that is. That's interesting. I mean, it's just the big eyes, that shaped head. It's just fascinating stuff. And I think this is like the historical, for your audience listening or even watching, you can check out there's a book that's put out by Jacques Vallée, and it's called Wonders in the Sky. And he documents ancient sightings, whether it's cave art or paintings or coins,
historical paintings. Right.
Listen, while they talk, I'm going to just play this video because it actually shows these paintings that he's talking about, and it goes through like all of them. So I'm just going to play that, but like watch this.
All stuff, it's fascinating. It's called
Depicting UFOs.
Depicting which cannot be interpreted as anything other than UFOs. Anyway, there's one drawing that I brought in this briefing document that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, you can pull that one up, Jordan. I think you have that.
Yeah,
what we were looking at earlier.
Painting the Madonna. It's in a.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a.
Right there.
Yeah, there you go. So
The Madonna with Saint Giovanni.
Palazzo Vecchio.
Yeah,
in
there's
Florence.
there's lots of these old Renaissance and paintings from like the times of antiquity with religious depictions of Madonna and Jesus and the Virgin Mary with strange objects in the background. And I think this one shows a guy looking up at it in the sky.
If you can click on that, and if you zoomed in, you could see there's a guy standing there with a dog, and they're looking up at it. So can we go back to Australia?
Yes.
This is Westall UFO case.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Australia right after Africa, and I was fascinated because it's so hard for me as a researcher to imagine how a mass sighting like a school could happen in broad daylight and that the whole world wouldn't know about it. I just have a really hard time wondering, how is that possible? Do you know what I mean? So I started investigating, well, with the help of a number of Australians, researchers, and there was a guy who was 12 miles or less, 8 miles away from the school. It was 2 days prior. Usually when there's a UFO sighting, there's always a...
Here, I'm going to stop this now. Basically, he's talking about something that I'm going to make a different episode about. It was this crazy instance in Australia where 300 people saw the same thing. I mean, this is like the Australian version of the Phoenix Lights, like just wild. But this is all the stuff that's 4,000 years old. This is the stuff that they depicted. This is just great. These are gray aliens. What else are we going to say about this? And then I can't stray from the fact that, you know, sometimes you have to question whether or not these gray aliens are actually demons. But here's the thing. In this story, in Australia, 4,000 years ago, these beings did nothing but good. Apparently, what they did was they pretty much, from what it sounds like they terraformed the area, right? They made it very livable. And they did this for all the people that were inhabiting the land. And then it said that they are not just drawings on these walls. They say that these beings made themselves into these drawings by getting into a water well of sorts. So basically, these beings went into a water source and disappeared. Then this stuff popped up. Now, I don't know about all that. It seems like if these were alien, if these were something that was a little more advanced, they would have done this with, I mean, think about what we could do this with. You could do this with a pressure washer. You could do this with, there's a bunch of, you can do this with lasers. If you and I could get lasers and we could actually do stuff like this. You know, if they were some kind of advanced beings, they could easily just have done this themselves. But the natives, and again, I don't mean to disrespect them and act like they just didn't understand, but they're saying they went into a water source and then became these depictions that are all over the walls. I don't know about that, right? Check this one out. Wild, freaky looking stuff, right? And like, you could think that's a nose, but that could just be a small mouth, just like the gray aliens that we've all seen. Big eyes, right? For some reason they have this, maybe they're wearing hoods. They look like they're, you know, wearing some kind of clothing. But what was that back in the day? Here, this video is about to end. I want to go back to this one because this one just looks nuts. And the thing is, they're depicting so many of them. It's not like it's just one or two and they're like, oh, no, they're showing you a dozen right now. Like as if there was just a bunch of these things. And then the three-eyed thing with the, and then if you look closely here, you can see something with, it looks like 2 fingers. Let me pause it. 2 fingers. It looks like this part has 3 fingers. And then if you're able to see the lower extremities here, it also looks like it has 3 toes. And that just made me think of the new discovery with those mummified, you know, quote unquote aliens. Who people don't really know what they are, but they all have 3 fingers and 3 toes. And this is kind of the same thing, you know, and it kind of has the same head shape as well. It's very interesting stuff, man. So I don't know what they were depicting, but it you know what I mean? I can't think of them as just being like, oh, well, they just didn't know. They saw a guy. And, you know, they just didn't know how else to draw it, so they just did their best. I don't think that's what this is. I think when you see something, you know, this basic, it's pretty easy to just write this down. Like, if we saw something like this, you and I, how easy would that be? We'd be like, well, it was a circle. There's 2 huge eyes. There's a little mouth. And that was it. Right? Forget what they're called. I did a little bit of research to see what they were called. Not this event. I'm going to do a... Did I lose it? What is it called? The Windigang or something like that. Let me see here. See if I can find it. Nope. Doesn't pop up again. Had it in ChatGPT. Do I still have it? Nope. Don't have it there anymore. Man. I just had it. Can't check my history. Cave paintings. Nope. I'm trying to access my history here. No history coming up. All right. Well, I know what they're called. Let's go back here. And he should say what they're called. Let me see.
Oh, I think it was Westall Primary or something, but it's called the Westall Incident, 1966. So I was just in Africa, okay, and I had some of these drawings with me. I was just kind of sharing them a little bit, you know. And
it was very much like the classic alien, spindly neck, long neck with big head and big eyes.
So anyway, so I'm kind of sharing this, and I had someone say, "Bloody hell!" I mean, like that looks just like the Wanina.
The Wanina, that's what it was called. Let's jump over here. The Wanina. The Wanina, 4,000-year-old. Because they actually talk about what this whole thing was. Gina, 4,000 years old. Okay, so here it is. Yeah. So the Wanina are the cloud and rain spirits. So that's what these people believe they were. From the belief system of the indigenous Aboriginal people from the Kimberley region of Western Australia. Okay, these spiritual beings were known as the Wanina, considered powerful ancestral creators who came from the sky and the sea. Come on, guys. We've been everybody, senators, congressmen, presidents, Tucker Carlson, everybody's been talking about these things. Some are in the sky and they're going into the sea. I didn't even read that the first time I read this. So they came from the sky and the sea and are associated with rain, fertility, and the regeneration of life. Sounds pretty advanced. The artwork, often painted on white backgrounds, featured broad, blah, 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 white faces, prominent eyes, no mouths, small mouths actually, symbolizing their immense power and the belief that if they spoke, rain would never cease. The emergence of this art style is linked to the end of a long drought, coinciding. Where's the part where they actually talk about what they did? It's not here. There's a part where they actually talk about what they did for the people, and then they actually get into water and disappear. That's what they did. It's just wild. You can look into it. It's called the Wajina. How do you spell that? Wanjina. Right? And again, all the time when it comes to these Aboriginal and their belief systems, we go, oh, these were just spirits, which means that it was just myth, and they were just seeing things, and that's all it was. I don't think so. I'm not buying it. I'm done buying that story. I'm done buying those stories. Anyway, let's jump over to some more weird art. Check that out. What's that? Look, you can see my logo in the corner, right? You see my logo there in the corner? You know what it's covering? This guy has a face on his ass. What? Why? Apparently, this picture is depicting a demon or alien, who knows? Could be one and the same. Or, we could be confusing aliens with demons. But apparently he came to this bishop and he offered him to build his church. But the deal was that he had to give over the first soul. He had to give over the first soul that came into the building. So the first person to walk in, that soul had to be this guy's right away. Okay. So what this guy does, thinks he's cool, thinks he found a loophole. He decides to open the church and then let a wolf in. So the wolf's the first thing that runs in. They get the soul of the wolf instead, and then every human is saved by that. No human soul gets touched. Very interesting stuff. Now, here's another one. Oh, I already showed you this one. This one I thought was fake. It's actually very real. The red that you're seeing right there is being done by this person who made the video. Let's jump over here. This is another one. You guys already seen this. Let's jump over here. This one is very odd. This is the one I was talking about where it was snowing in Rome. Just listen to this.
Panicali painted a scene of snowfall in August at the Church of Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome during the 15th century. The painting is a depiction of the legend of Pope Liberius and Giovanni discovering a patch of unmelted snow in Rome in August of 352. Today we call that a ski resort. So far, this story just sounds like the ancient Weather Channel, but it's incredibly rare to have snow in Rome, even in the winter. In other words, for snow to fall in August would require divine intervention. According to the story, the patch of snow was a sign from Mother Mary, who among her many other qualities could apparently control the weather like Storm in X-Men. She wanted them to build a church in that spot, and since she was Mary, they felt pretty enthusiastic about fulfilling her wishes. Above the patch of snow, there are what seems to be dozens of saucer-shaped flying objects. According to conventional wisdom, despite how much they look like UFOs, these objects were really just meant to depict more snow. But in an interesting postscript, on October 27, 1954, in Florence, Italy, thousands of people reported sightings of UFOs in the sky, followed by a light dusting of a white, cotton-like substance that disintegrated when it touched people's hands. In fact, a football match was stopped as an entire stadium looked up at what appeared to be a floating egg above Stadio Artemio Franchi.
Eggs. What did they say? Cigar-shaped, egg-shaped, disc-shaped. We're talking about throughout time, it has been the same things over and over and over again. It's just a trip. But yeah, going back to that picture, they're just saying that this is just more snow. That's all it is. Again, I keep saying it. You can't have these historians just on their own together deciding things. You need somebody in whatever the historian society is. You need someone who's a UFOologist. You need somebody there who can step in. You need someone who's from the occult. You need someone who has a huge background in UFOs. You need someone who has a huge background in religion. And you guys all need to come together and figure things out. Because when it's a historian, they just go, I don't know. I mean, I already got paid the money. I've been studying this for a few weeks. I already have another thing I want to move on to, and I got to pitch that soon. So let's just say this was more snow. I got to get going. Okay, guys? You can't do that. And then years go by, and you've rested on this, and this is like the thing. What do you mean? It's more snow. And now somebody comes along and says it's a flying saucer. You're just like, we actually already know that this is more snow. We've solved this already. Based on what? Based on nothing. Nothing. Very weird stuff. Anyway, let's jump over more weird pictures. There's so many, guys. I'm not even going to show you all of them. But there's so many weird ones. Looks like balloons. That is what it kind of looks like, especially the pink ones there, right? This one's from 1566, right? And the depiction of what's happening in this picture. Okay, let me just read this. At the time when the sun rose, one saw many large black balls which moved at high speed in the air towards the sun, then made half turns, banging against one another as if they were fighting a battle of combat. A great number of them became red. Therefore, they were consumed and died out. That is what this artist is depicting. A day where all of these things were just in the sky, banging up against each other, turning red, getting consumed by other things. What could that be? 1566 that was made. This is another one depicting the same type of thing. Just weird stuff. This one's a trip. Like, I'm going to have a studio one day. I'm definitely going to have this picture in there. This picture is beautiful. It's basically like it seems like a guy who's like in one world and he's seeing another world. I identify with that, like psychedelics and stuff. But again, this is artists just doing things. This one really tripped me out here. This one tripped me out because, let me just move this to the side, because what we have going on here, again, it's Jesus, right? Jesus is sitting there with darker skin, I might say. It's interesting. But but if you look here, you're seeing this diamond-shaped thing, right? But if you look closely, can I get it closer for you guys? If you look closely, it's a bunch of eyes. So we have a bunch of eyes, just like that angel. I forget which angel it is, but the biblically accurate angel that's just all eyes and like spinning rings and eyes all over it. So we're getting something that's like that, and it has a direct line to Jesus. Just wild stuff that they're showing us. And then you have, look at this. And then you have this little devil thing in the corner. I don't know what this thing is, but they're depicted everywhere. They're like helping people. They're doing things. Some might say they're the Anunnaki. Look, they're on ships while people are struggling, I guess. Just so many odd depictions. Then here, seems like they're helping people build something. Or maybe not even. That's not even a person. That's an angel. So they're working alongside angels or working against angels. Can't even tell what's going on. But actually, you know what? There you can tell what's going on. So it looks like they're enslaving a human being. Just wild, man. Just weird, wild stuff that you're seeing from these artists. Okay, that was the last picture. Well, that was it, guys. I just wanted to show that one to you. That was that whole thing just blows my mind. And the question becomes, what is actually being seen? Are we seeing a depiction of angels, or are we seeing a depiction of aliens? Again, I say it all the time. I think we just lost our language. And I think at some point we understood that these were angels. We understood that there was good and evil. And then all of a sudden that faded away and everything just became a UFO. Because it's much easier in today's narrative to have everything just be unidentified. It's just unidentified. We don't know what it is. Whereas back in the day, they're like, no, we know exactly what this is. We know. It's weird that the more primitive, who's looked at as more primitive and not as advanced as us and dumb, for lack of a better word, were the ones that were like, I know exactly what this is. And now we're the ones who are super advanced. And we're like, we have no idea. Something's being held back. Something's being held back. And back in the day, the artists weren't holding back at all. But nowadays, something's being held back from us. And I don't know what it is, but I hope we figure it out soon. I really do. And you know what? I think we do have it figured out. I don't mean like black budget, like, government type stuff, figured it out in that sense. I think that these things are what we have seen, what we've seen depicted throughout time. I think they are actually that. And, I was talking to a UFO researcher. I'm going to release the interview with her. When this comes out, this is going to come out Sunday. Her interview is going to come out on Saturday. So it's already there. Tinfoil Experience. Go check it out. Christina Gomez. And I think what she said rings true. She said, I think it's a little bit of everything. When I asked her what UFO, what do you think this whole UFO, UAP thing is? She's like, I think it's a little interdimensional. I think it's a little bit of angels, demons. I think it's a little bit of actual aliens coming from faraway planets. And, when she said that, I wasn't on board. But when you really think about it, there's a truth that's being hidden from us, right? If we knew the full truth, I think we could handle it, but it would blow our mind, right? And I don't think aliens from another planet, I don't think that would blow our mind. Like, but I think if we knew there was from another planet, and there's also interdimensional, and there's also real angels, there's real demons. They're in the unseen realm all around us all the time. We have access to those realms depending on our states of consciousness and altered consciousness. If we just knew everything that we throw out here, all the paranormal stuff that I throw out there, if you knew that it was all true for sure, like right now, we know. But if all of a sudden, like that episode I did about the night vision, if all of a sudden you could put on a goggle and see everything happening, that would change everything. That would change everything, right? I don't know. I'm hoping we get those goggles soon. And I'm hoping it's not Project Bluebeam. Oh, and then I said something about the Y-Files, didn't I? If you've watched until this point, you deserve to see what I was talking about. So recently, Sean Ryan, I don't know if you know this, Sean Ryan sat down with the dude from the Y-Files, AJ, right? They had a little sit down together. Is this it?
Found it, and they said, wow, God.
No, this is something else. I have to find it. They were talking about the book of Adam and Eve. And what he had to say about it was so out there, even for AJ. But it really makes me think about everything we've been discussing here today. Let me see if I can find it in my likes. I had to have liked it. Is that it? Yeah, there it is. Let's watch this. Look at this. Check this out.
That's fascinating.
I think so.
Didn't the Smithsonian cover up Adam and Eve or something?
Are you talking about the Adam and Eve book?
Yes.
Oh, that's a different one. That's a book that was released in 1966 by Dr. Chan Thomas, and it's called The Story of Adam and Eve. And that story title sounds cute until you read it and you realize he's talking about really Adam and Eve. And the story is it's this 278-page manuscript that is classified by the CIA, and they've removed 200 pages. There's only like 50 or 60 pages left, and half of those are blank. And the CIA says it's been sanitized. And the reason that the CIA was so interested in the book of Adam and Eve is because it describes the end of the world. And Dr. Thomas in the book talks about pole shifts and what happens when the poles shift. Something happens to the inner core of the Earth. Our electrical field gets thrown off. And when that happens, the poles shift. And it's something that happens over and over and over again. And his pole shift is a 90-degree shift. So Antarctica goes to the equator, and the equator goes down south. Like it's violent. And as it's shifting, the atmosphere continues to rotate, west to east. So he describes in the book just walls of water and this wind and debris just tearing across everything. Cities are reduced to waste.
So I'm gonna do a separate episode on that, but I have a little theory that goes along with that, but we'll get into it another time. That'll be another hour to talk about. But when I hear that, this is what I'm getting at when I hear that little clip that he just talked about. I think there's been a reset over and over and over again, in that the people of hundreds or thousands of years ago, they weren't as dumb as you'd think. I mean, you got to think it's like us. It's like somebody 200 years from now thinking we were dumb. We're not dumb, Like maybe you don't have it all together. Maybe there's some war, etc. Maybe all that, but we're not dumb. So why would you think people thousands of years? Why would you think they were just dumb? Like they just didn't know things. They didn't know all the things you do, but you didn't know. You don't know how they built pyramids. You don't know what they were doing with the Sphinx. You don't understand how they moved all those blocks, or if it was for energy or not. And if it is for energy, you don't understand how to make that type of energy that they were making. You don't understand how they knew the stars without all these mechanical things that you needed. You have no idea. I'm just saying. I think there was a few resets, and I think a lot of this old art is trying to convey something like that to us. These old scriptures, these old books, this history that kind of gets just pushed aside. I think it's trying to tell us something, you know? But anyways, guys, that's all for today. We're like at an hour and 3 minutes here. So anyway, I'm out.